turned it up because I noticed that while I was talking, you know how like the light is supposed to turn on your it was just wasn't.
Oh.
And I was like, why am I doing this to people? Do I have to like sit there and like turn my volume up on Discord and everything?
Welcome. You are entering a strange realm. A realm of what ifs. What if movies, television shows, and video games were better, worse, bizarrer, or downright different? What might they look like? Find out on today's episode of CineCasters.
Welcome back to CineCasters, our brand new show on our brand new channel. Same old podcast, though. I am Janglez the Strange, and today I'm joined by Alyssa.
Hi. Is this the first episode?
This is the first episode. We are migrating to a new channel, but it's the same show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I just, for some reason, was like, oh, this is just going to be CineMasters again.
It is CineMasters. It's the same podcast, as I keep saying. It's the same podcast. We're just moving over to a new channel, so all the podcast stuff is going to be here, and all of the scripted content will be on the CineMasters Ultimate Timeline channel. So if you came for the podcast, you're welcome. Or very welcome to join us. But if you're only looking for the scripted content, I don't know why you're here, because this is the wrong channel. But yeah, so all the classic stuff will be slowly migrating over under a new name. It'll be called CineMasters Classic or CineCasters Classic. I haven't decided. Probably one of the two. But this is the CineCasters podcast. It's the same old podcast where we talk about movies and shows and maybe video games in the future, and we pitch them back to one another. And today we are doing Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Gaiman. Yeah.
I really liked this movie.
I thought you would.
I had a lot of fun with it. I wasn't expecting to have a lot of fun with it. Well, I was okay. Let me rephrase that. I was expecting to have fun. I wasn't expecting to be like to enjoy it in this.
Oh, okay, yeah.
To like think it was good.
Yeah. I usually go into CineMasters episodes like that where I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this because it's either going to be terrible or it's going to be thought-provoking.
Yeah.
But I mean, not often do I come away from a movie being like, yo, that was awesome when we do CineMasters stuff.
Yeah.
There's only been a couple times where I've been like, oh, unless we come, like, there's been a few movies where we've done going into it, I'm like, I already know I like this movie, but I already know that it's problematic. So I'm thinking of Brave, which is, of course, my favorite pitch of all time that I did. Because I went into that movie having seen it many times and loving that movie, but knowing sort of that it was problematic. So when I wrote my pitch for it, I was like, yeah. I had a hard time writing a pitch for this one.
I did too, actually.
It's a pretty good movie. The only thing I would actually change if I had my like my way, the only thing I would change is just how the story is told in terms of like progression. Like there's a couple things where I would have been like, oh, that would have been nicer if it was kind of a reveal instead of it already being told to us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking of, in particular of how, what's his name? Tristan. How Tristan is like reveal, like basically from the beginning you already know that he's the son of a princess, and then if you guess who that princess is pretty early on, it's obvious.
There's a lot of stuff that was very obvious in this. There was also at some point, where's my note on it? Oh, they put a lot of exposition in as well. Like we can already tell that the stars are getting eaten by the witches, but yet we still got, a 5-minute scene where they're telling us about this star who fell to Earth or fell to whatever.
Stormhold?
I think it's called Stormhold.
Stormhold?
And the witches like hunted her down, and like we get the whole story there, but they already kind of explain that stuff throughout the rest of the movie. Where it's like, oh, if you make, if a star is happy, their soul is better, or like whatever. But we could already figure that out. We already knew that they had a star previously.
Yeah. So most of my problem, pardon me, most of my problem with this movie is actually like not a structural problem in terms of like, oh, this movie has like bad pacing or anything like that. It's just like oh, that should have been like a reveal. Like there should have been hints dropped the entire time. And if you're paying attention, you can be like, oh, whoa, at the end. Or you can be like, I knew it. Like I guessed it. I could see that was happening. So
yeah. I just kind of found that it hit the viewers on the head with everything.
Yeah, a few things. Like the whole thing where there's like the montage when they're on Captain Shakespeare's ship, and you can slowly see Tristan and oh, what's her name? I'm trying to find her name. It's the weird name. The star, Yvain. Sorry, she just has a weird name. So I'm trying to remember all the names because the witches are called like Lamia and Yvain, and then the princes are all named after their number, like Primus, Secundus.
I thought that was
Tertius,
pretty funny, actually. The naming. Yeah.
Quadranius, Quintus, Sextus, and Septimus. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Una.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 2 1s. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which I thought was like funny as a naming system. I was like, oh, that's very, very Latin, Greco-Roman-esque kind of naming system. But like the whole montage, like when they're on Shakespeare's ship and they're like slowly falling in love, I was like, it's pretty obvious. We don't need to like say it out loud, because later on they're like there's a scene where he's a mouse and she's like saying it, and I'm like, yeah, you could confess your feelings to each other, but for the audience, we already know this.
Yeah. But they could have made the movie a lot shorter.
Yeah. Not to say that it was poorly done though. Like we've been harping on this movie, like picking out our bads, but like it's good. It's a good movie. I really came out of this movie like enjoying it more than I thought I would. It just is a little long and drags in a few parts, but I liked it. I enjoyed it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, with the exception of the few like really tedious expository scenes.
Yeah.
But some of my notes, I'm just going to read it, just all of the good notes here, because I just wrote them down in order as they came to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got, number 1 is super cheesy. Just that intro of like going over the wall, and they're just so cheesy.
Classic fairy tale.
Yeah. A unicorn, so cliche. Yeah. I love it.
The unicorn was kind of dumb.
Boobs don't move like that.
I'm not sure. I know what you
don't remember that part?
No.
When they take the peasant boy, when the witch takes the
and then
boy
she just all of a sudden gets
turns him into a girl.
Yeah,
and it's just like they like boing, and I'm like, that's like anime.
That's like anime.
But it was also really funny.
I mean, if you're into anime.
The dead brothers were my favorite.
I thought they should have leaned on the ghosts harder.
I thought that
I think
it
would have been so funny, because just like having I also, I mean, in my pitch I did add this, but I'll ruin it. Like in my pitch, they haunt each other, as in like only the next in line to the throne can see or be aware of who the of the ghosts, so they only haunt the next heir until the curse is broken.
Oh, okay.
And that's in my pitch. So I just think it would be like funnier if you had like all 6 brothers haunting Septimus until the curse is broken. So he's like he is the only one who can see them, but he's like forced to interact with them.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought they were so funny. Like they almost play like this classic kind of chorus role that comes up in like Greek tragedies or and like it is like, so
like I'm
funny.
thinking Hercules.
Like you mean the Disney version?
The Disney one where they've got the
muses. Yeah. And they're sort of playing like the audience, or like a chorus kind of thing that explains what's going on in the whole thing. Because I was like, oh, they're so funny. So funny. Also, Septimus is played by Mark Williams, who is a British actor who doesn't get nearly enough credit for what he does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, there's a lot of famous people in this movie.
Yeah.
Like Henry Cavill.
Yep.
Charlie Cox, who plays Daredevil, or most famously played Daredevil. The Tristan's father, when he's young, is played by, I think it's Ben Barnes, who played Jigsaw in The Punisher. So literally you have a Punisher villain being the father of Daredevil. So, yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Mark Williams, as I already said, and then one of the witches is played by the main witch is played by a very famous actress whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. And what's his name? De Niro.
Yeah.
That's Captain Shakespeare.
Yeah. Shakespeare. Oh, and Captain Shakespeare was one of my other favorite parts.
He's the best
Sorry,
part.
I'm just going back to like all the things that I liked.
Yeah, he's the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even
yeah,
though
obviously.
I thought everything about that was great. I wish they'd spent more time with that. I'm also unclear about how much time they spent in Stormhold.
I think it was supposed to be 2 weeks.
I thought it was a week.
Or 10 days or something like that.
Like she's getting married, or she's going to say yes to... Victoria's going to say yes to Humphrey in like 10 days or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I thought it was 1 week. So I'm unclear as to like where the dividing line was for how long it was supposed to be. Because during the whole montage that I was talking about, I thought that was very strange because the montage is supposed to, like, to me it seemed like that was days going by, and I was like, but isn't this a week? Like, I don't know. And maybe it was because, like, if it's the fairy tale world, time passes differently, so that could be fun. But like, they didn't explain that.
I'm pretty sure that they outlined right away that it's going to be about the same amount of time.
Yeah. So I don't really know what's going on there because that felt like a long time to me, like the way the montage went.
Yeah. Yeah, because you get to the point where you're good at sword fighting. Like, that's not going to happen in one day.
So to me, I was like, is this weeks? Is this months? Like, I'm confused. And montages are always hard because you're like, this is supposed to be the passage of time.
Yeah.
But you're never really
and how do you
like,
show exactly how much time is really passing?
Yeah. Especially, so a montage maybe wasn't the best idea to do there because when your characters are under a time limit and you show a montage, it's like, well, how much time are we losing in the montage?
Yeah. I had like 4 big questions.
Okay.
That I don't know, maybe you can help me figure these out, or maybe they are just plot holes like I expected.
Oh, they're like I thought they were going to be like questions on the nature of fairy tales or anything like that.
No. So my first one was, why couldn't the stars tell their own sister that she's falling into a trap? Why did they rely on this human boy?
Because fairy tale love.
I guess.
Next question.
Okay. Isn't the captain supposed to be good at driving? Why was everyone terrified when the captain
I just think that was supposed to be a joke. Like, well, generally on like big ships like that, the captain actually doesn't steer. You have a helmsman.
Well, yeah.
The captain just gives orders.
But you would also think that the captain would know how to do it as well.
You'd think, but maybe that's the joke.
Maybe. And then my other one, I guess, I have 4, so second last one. Bright lights kill witches, apparently.
Yeah, what?
That was just like a plot device of just like,
I'm
going to shine my
brightest, even though I didn't know I could do that because I needed you, Tristan, and now that I have you, I can shine, and that kills witches because they're witches.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't quite get that one. And then I also remember about halfway through the movie when they were looking for that candle.
The Babylon candle?
The Babylon candle and the I can never remember any of the witches' names.
The main witch?
The main witch
Lamia,
asks that traveling witch.
Yeah. Ditchwater.
Like,
what's her
do you
face?
have a
Ditchwater.
Babylon candle?
Yeah.
And then she's like, I don't deal in black magic. But then at the end of the movie, when Tristan and Yvonne get married.
Yvain.
Yeah. When they get married, his mom hands them a Babylon candle. I'm like, here, congratulations.
Yeah, you
some
just
black
had this?
magic
Where
for
did
you.
Get it? Yeah. Are Babylon candles black magic? I don't know.
That's what she said. That's what the witch said. So
I don't know. I don't understand what
Yeah.
what goes on.
I don't either.
But I think part of the point of having plot holes, maybe not having plot holes, but part of the point of like this kind of story isn't that it's necessarily supposed to make sense so much as it's supposed to be a fairy tale. So
entertaining.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Neil Gaiman came in and wrote Stardust as like, what if there was like a dark fantasy fairy tale? So the actual book, I haven't read it, but the book is a short story per se, like a short fairy tale. And it is dark. Like, it's supposed to be pretty dark. Much darker than the movie version. Well, I actually thought they should have pushed further into making this more comedy. Because the comedy that is in here is hilarious, particularly around the dead brothers, the prince's haunting. So funny. Yeah. They should have done more with that. But it feels very like comedy-like. Even though it also like they're playing with this idea of a coming of age story, which you can still have, but there's a lot of things going on in here. But I think it's most important is, like, as I said earlier, on the nature of fairy tales. The idea, like, what is a fairy tale? What is the purpose of a fairy tale? Often it's to tell a moral or a story. And in this one, I think it was supposed to be a coming of age story more than anything, which is why I feel like the prologue, like going across the wall and having Tristan's father then come to find this princess who's been a slave. I was like, this feels like the beginning of the story. And then all of a sudden it's like, and then Tristan, the baby, and it's actually his story. And I was like, I hate double starts. Like, it feels like we're starting again after this.
Yeah.
That's always really frustrating for me.
Yeah. God, I had something to say, and now it's gone.
Well, I don't know.
Bringing it back to the comedy. There were a lot of comedic moments, like when Tristan and his father, I guess, as well, tricked the
wall guard.
The wall guard. Yeah. That was funny. And then the wall guard was ready for it when Tristan tried to do the exact same thing. And I thought that was hilarious. He like
flips over the wall because you're thinking like, oh, he's going to do the same thing his father did. And it'll be hilarious. Like this parallel.
Yeah.
And then he like jumps over the wall and like gets the shit kicked out of him by this old dude with a stick.
Which was hilarious.
Like you lean into that comedy, I think.
Yeah. And there were a couple other moments too. Like when Yvain was confessing her love to a mouse. Like, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So
the movie works. It's so funny. And it's a good time. Like, I highly recommend. I'm not sure that it needed a narrator because it's Ian McKellen narrating.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it needed a narrator because I get that it's supposed to feel like a fairy tale and having the narration feels like a fairy tale, but voiceover doesn't always work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it didn't work this time. I'm just saying, like, I'm not certain that it was the best decision. Like, I would have liked to have just gotten into it. Hence my problem with the double start, like having a character be introduced and then having it be their son. Like, don't introduce me to a central character, Tristan's father, only to have it not be about them.
Yeah, if they took the narrator out, it would have, I think, helped with the problem of having too much exposition as well. Because I think that's where most of it came from. They were like, oh, we need lines because it's Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
And so they just built onto it a little too much, I think.
I don't know. The narrator is only at the beginning and the end. It's like, this makes it pretty unnecessary. Unless you, I mean, I do like at the end where the narrator says, like, the only person who can live forever is a person who has the heart of a star.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that is nice to have that sort of, and Tristan does live forever because he's the only one who's ever actually had the heart of a star.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, oh, that's really cute, but you could have any other character say that. Like, imagine if Captain Shakespeare said that because it's Captain Shakespeare.
Would be so...
And he's the best character.
That would have been so good if Captain Shakespeare said it, especially because he knew the two of them personally.
Yeah.
Like...
And it doesn't have to be a voiceover. It just could be said. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. I don't have a lot else to say with this movie. I thought it was fun. I thought the music was pretty good. The movie was strong. I feel like this is a fun fairy tale. But I will say that a lot of the aerial shots and like the outdoor shots, you can really see the impact that Lord of the Rings had on movie making in this movie. Because this movie is from 2007, I think. So, it came out recently enough after the Lord of the Rings movies. And I think you can see the effect on these movies, just like visually how they look.
Yeah. But lots and lots of those big aerial shots where you can just see the hills and the mountains and
which I think does work in this case, like to build your fairy tale. Because like I'm thinking back to another kind of, this movie reminds me a lot of the campiness and storytelling of The Princess Bride.
Yes.
And The Princess Bride doesn't have a lot of those big epic sweeping shots, and instead sort of relies on close-knit, tighter camera angles for storytelling. Mm-hmm. And it just like sort of explains the world, like the cliffs of insanity. And the only time we see the cliffs is like from pretty far away with like a boat, like a model boat or whatever. And then when he climbs up, it's clearly a set. And then when they're on the top of the cliff and they're doing the whole sword fight, that's still like a set on top of the cliff. So like, we don't get these like sweeping shots of nature beyond, a couple introductory things. There's not these like big shots like that. Even the like swamp, what is it? The fire swamps. We never get like an overshot of the fire swamps. Like what do they look like from the outside? Like it's just a forest with some quicksand and some ROUSs. Whereas in this, we get like these big shots of awesome landscapes. Even when they build the hotel, like when she magics the inn, like even that's just like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it still like looks good.
It does, yeah.
The effects in this were excellent. The lightning in particular, I thought looked really good.
And I liked the ghosts. They looked good.
Well, and they all look like they're the dead versions of themselves, like how they died. So they're like squashed or heads cut or drowned or
frozen.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
That was good.
Yeah. A little morbid, but it did add to kind of like the physical comedy of the movie. I'm torn between the ghosts or Captain Shakespeare in terms of my favorite parts, but I think for me it might be the ghosts actually.
I think if we had more Shakespeare, it would really be a hard choice. Because we get the ghosts throughout. But they're not really
utilized very well either.
One spot. No, there was so much more they could have done.
So my question for you is, we both like those two aspects of this movie, although I'm pretty sure Captain Shakespeare is not really all that much in the original story. I know a lot was changed for the movie because there's like visual storytelling is very different.
Yep.
And that they were going for a bit of a different tone with the movie. But I often wonder about this. Do you think that the movie or that our favorite characters would have worked as well if they were in the movie more? Like, do you think the reason we love them so much is because they're only in the little bit that we get?
I think maybe that they work because we only get them a little bit. Like, some of the things could definitely be overdone. Like, if we always panned back to the dead brothers just, like, commenting on something, then it takes away from our own reactions, I guess. But I think that they could have been utilized a little bit more without, like, it's kind of a fine line, right?
Well, the reason I bring it up is because people always say, like, so my go-to example for this is Pitch Perfect. I don't know if you've seen Pitch Perfect, but in the first
many times.
I really like that movie. I think it's a really well-made movie and like an exemplar romantic comedy with good music. It's like the most natural musical. Anyway, I'll get back to that. My problem with that movie is it's a really, really good movie, and everyone is always like, oh, Fat Amy is so hilarious. Like, she's like the best part of that movie, and I don't disagree. She's super funny. And then you go and watch Pitch Perfect 2, and Fat Amy isn't a bit part. She has her own, like, arc, and she's not nearly as funny.
Yeah,
because
I think it's the moderation
Yeah, and
that
all of a sudden you start getting like the lines that would have been said by Fat Amy are said by the other girls of the group who don't have story arcs, and you're like, well, now they're super funny. And I get that Rebel Wilson is this big name actor now, and they wanted to like give her more to do. That's fine, but it lost the Fat Amy-ness of the character. Like, she was funny because she was this like one-liner who didn't have to be serious because she wasn't carrying her own storyline. She could just like drop these truth bombs like, let's be honest. That's one of the lines she says in the movie. You know what I mean? Like, she can drop those kinds of lines and it can be like, oh damn, because she doesn't have to carry an entire emotional arc, you know, a B plot or a C plot on her own. Whereas like I would never want the Ghost brothers to carry their own plot. It just wouldn't work for them. But Shakespeare could have had his own plot, and he sort of does. But
I'm smiling because you just like
I just said your
admitted
pitch.
you're not gonna like my pitch.
Oh no. Well, see, it could work. I just think like you'd have to be careful about how you did it. I mean, I just ruined your pitch, but
it's fine.
The reason I say it is because you could tell this story from their perspective, but you have to be careful how much you use them, because if they're not a bit part, then they're not comedy. Now, seven brothers as ghosts, that's already got comedy written into it, but you just have to be careful because you're often your comedic character in a movie anyway has a hard time holding an emotional arc, right? It's sometimes I think that's part of the reason why comedy has died recently in movies. It's been much more comedic in TV shows where you can sort of rotate who's having the arc and who's having the I'm seeing that smile, which means you probably turned it into a TV show. Yo, am I just guessing your pitch?
Yeah.
All right, screw it. You know what? Just get into it. Get into it before I spoil this thing anymore for you.
Okay. Oh, I can't believe you just did that to me. Okay, so my pitch was to make a sitcom with the dead brothers. It was supposed to be like a prequel to the actual like movie.
But not all of them are dead.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be like as they all like, because some of them are already dead by the time we get into the movie. There's only like 4 of them left at the start.
It's like Primus and Secundus and Tertius.
And then one of them gets pushed off the cliff, and then there's only 3 left, and then one of them drinks the poison.
Yeah.
And yada yada yada. So it's basically that, but they start with they're all alive except one. I couldn't actually wait. Did I say 1? Yeah, I did say 1. Wait, did I? Hang on.
Let me check the notes here.
Well, I'll just start anyways. Because I basically just came up with a pilot episode.
Great.
Instead of like a whole season. Yeah. Season, because there's a lot of different ways you could go about it.
So pitch me your pilot.
All right. So we start by seeing England, just a small little village, just, you know, your average people hanging out. And then we've got the wall with the guard, and then we actually just move straight through the town. And then, sorry, let me start that again. We move straight through the town to the wall with the guard, and then past the wall into the other town, because I don't know why I was like, oh, we see the wall, and then we go through the town to the wall again. Anyways, sorry. So we go, it's basically one of those, like, I love when fantasy movies specifically do this thing where they like have like a bird flying and they like follow the bird as it goes through.
As like an introductory.
Yeah. So if we had something like that, I think that'd be cool. But I also didn't write a bird into this, so it's just the camera panning through.
Yeah.
So we start with that. We go in through the wall, through the town, past the wall, towards the castle, through a bustling courtyard, and into a busy throne room. We see Septimus standing alone, watching over the courtyard. They all have tattoos of their numbers because that's an easy way of identifying them without having to actually say their name right off the bat. So he seems lost in thought. Primus walks in and gets Septimus' attention. They kind of discuss the disappearance of their sister. So she disappeared recently. When someone yells from across the courtyard. Another one of the princes sits in the courtyard with a knife sticking out of his arm. Septimus is obviously disappointed, and Primus laughs, telling Septimus, "You'll have to take out Secundus yourself." So I'm kind of going for, I'm assuming you've watched the Marvel movies.
Some of them.
And I don't know if you ever, I don't remember which movie it is, but Thor is basically like, "Oh, Loki's such a jokester. He turned into a snake, and I love snakes, so I picked him up, and he turned back into himself, and then stabbed me, and it was a fun time," or whatever. That's kind of what I'm aiming for here, where it's like they're obviously very like not violent.
They're all trying to kill each other, but they're all trying to play it off like it's a joke because they don't want to admit that they all want the throne.
Yeah, that's what this is supposed to be, basically. So we basically get them like Septimus and Primus just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then they all get called to the throne room. We see that they've got like a line of chairs. I don't know. I wasn't sure how I was actually going to set up the throne room, but I wanted all of them to have chairs.
Yeah.
For some weird reason.
Well, it's an easy way to show, like, I'm sorry for interrupting, but it's an easy way to show like the visual hierarchy of who's next in line.
Yes.
So you can just be like, "Oh, here's the throne room." Like first it was supposed to be Una, and then that Una's not there, that like her chair gets removed, and then it's Primus. You know what I mean? And then you can slowly see as the chairs move, and we can, because that way you can pay, because clearly Septimus is your main character here.
Yep.
So far, based on what I'm hearing, so you can like pan down the line and actually have Septimus like look up towards the throne room and see there's 6 chairs in the way.
Yeah.
And that way you can be like, that's a visual representation of how far he has to go in order to take the throne.
Yeah. That's exactly kind of what I was going for. You always just manage to pull exactly what I'm trying to say out of like my word vomit. It just works.
Oh, great. Now you make it sound like I'm pulling like alphagettis out of your like actual vomit.
Yikes.
Like I'm pulling out actual alphagetti.
Sure, if you wanted to put a visual to it, that's what it's like.
All right, sorry, go on.
So they're all in the throne room. Basically everyone except Secundus, who is now going to get medical attention for his arm or his hand or whatever. And then the seat right next to Septimus is empty.
Ooh.
But it has, like, I was going to use something to signify that they're dead, but I couldn't come up with anything. So I'm thinking, like, a little, like, crown with their number on it. I don't know.
Okay.
And it's just sitting on the chair. So we actually see it's empty. He's... so we see first it's empty, and then after we get a little bit of conversation between the rest of the brothers, we kind of pan back to it, and we just kind of see him floating. We see, what would it be?
If it was 6, it would be Sextimus.
Sextimus. So we see him like floating into the throne room, and he just kind of like hovers around watching his brothers, just like these poor fools. So that happens. The king gives a little speech about his sons, about dishonor, and then he's also like insinuating that they should fight for the throne, but not actually outwardly saying it. Because obviously that would be just asking for like a civil war, basically, between the 6 remaining brothers. They touch on Una's disappearance, and all of the brothers are separately like coming up with different plans on how to track her down. Mm-hmm. Some of them are working together, some of them are not.
Do they want to find her or kill her?
They want to find her.
Oh, okay.
Because because it's outlined, I think, in the movie that they can only go to a male heir.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Can only go to a male heir. So the same thing is there, but it's like they all want her back because she's the only one that they could actually like trust. Mm-hmm. Because they don't have to worry about her trying to kill them. Yeah. So they all want her back because it's like the only person, in the throne room that they could ever trust. So the rest of the episode is basically just following the 6 alive brothers, and then we get occasionally Sextimus just kind of comes up and is just like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And no one actually hears him.
Yeah.
So he's just, floating around. I wanted it to be so that by the end of the first episode, one of them dies, but I couldn't figure out who I wanted it to be. One of the ones that would have already been dead.
I think Quirinius, Quintus, and Sextimus were already dead.
Maybe Quintimus, because that would make the most sense if Septimus is the one who's really
So it's like
pushing.
So he's making his way down, so it's like 6, and then 5, 4.
Yeah, but he's always making attacks on the other ones, but it just kind of progresses
that way. That's how he's successful, yeah.
So, yeah, and then throughout the rest of the episode, we would kind of meet, like, they have, people who they're in relationships with, and we see that they have some, like, tentative alliances between the brothers, like Primus and Septimus, even though Primus is, like, obviously...
First in line.
Septimus is still kind of working with him a little bit because Primus is like, well, no, I want to keep my place. So those are like the two hardest working ones working together. And then we also see like how they're still coming up with ways to like backstab each other even in their alliances.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so for a season-long arc, it would literally just be like the brothers slowly like whittling down each other, either physically or mentally. Mm-hmm. But I wanted it to still be comedic with like once one of the brothers dies, we now see like the ghost version of him in the same way, because I think that was hilarious with the being stuck the same way you died.
You died, yeah.
But the main plot of the whole season, I think, would be them trying to hunt down their sister and find her.
Okay. So I'm imagining...
Because it kind of unifies them at the same time as they're divided.
Yeah. No, that's really good, because what I'm imagining now is like Game of Thrones level of intrigue, of like betrayal and whatnot, but all under the guise of this like Monty Python-esque slapstick kind of murder, where it's like morbid, but like hilariously morbid because it's slapstick.
Yeah. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And like stupid things happen, obviously.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
No, I like that idea. That's very, very different. I also like the idea of pitching just the pilot, because I usually like to do like the full arc.
Yeah. I had a really hard time figuring out exactly what I wanted to do for a pitch. And so I didn't want to really tie myself down with a whole season, but I kind of knew the general direction that I'd want to go. If anything, it would be a little bit like if someone were to ever make this specific thing that I'm explaining, I think it would be best if it was just the episode was generally outlined and then they just did improv.
Ooh, yeah. If you had like a fun improv troupe and then you were basically like, so-and-so needs to kill so-and-so by the end of this and by the end of this and this is how, and give general directions and just sort of have them go at it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to completely outline it. Like, I wanted them to have a little bit of that banter at the start.
Yeah.
And then the rest is just up to whoever would be acting
like
it.
Improv. Oh, that's a really interesting idea, too. The problem with pitching improv is you're not pitching anything.
Exactly, I know. That's why I'm like, it feels like a weak pitch, but at the same time, it's like the coolest idea I think I've ever had.
Well, the point of our pitches is sometimes to be like, how would you change this? But improv is just as viable as a system, right? You're just leaving more up to chance on that particular event, right? And many movies are built off of the back of improv. I believe Ghostbusters 2016, a large part of that was just trying to let, this famous SNL alumni cast just have at it with these weird situations. So, yeah. Mine's much more structured.
Okay,
so
I'm glad.
I did actually repitch the movie and try to make it. Mainly my goal was to be like, okay, I like everything the movie does, but I just want to pin down a few of the plot holes and just kind of organize the magic a bit more. Yeah. Which sort of defeats the purpose of a fairy tale, because fairy tales are supposed to be kind of amorphous. Like, you're not supposed to pin down the magic with like a hard magic system or anything like that. And I tried to keep that up in the air, but I just wanted to like sort through what I thought should have been the stronger points or maybe a little bit of my own touch, but sort through the structural issues in terms of like how things get revealed or how things are unveiled. So my story starts out with Tristan. We just straight up meet him. He's only has his father, no mother, who's in love with Victoria, and he's basically just like a very okay person with his job and his life. So basically, I just want to emphasize more of the mundane world. Like, there's nothing magical at all. There's no inclination of any magical anything, but we can still have some narrator talk about how, like, the stars watch back. So Tristan's in love with Victoria. He does everything he can to impress her, but often is just rejected. She just rejects him in favor of Humphrey. When Tristan tells his father basically is like, there's so much more in the world than, like, you shouldn't waste your time on trying to impress just this one girl. Like, if she says no, move on and go see the rest of the world, because no one can live forever. And Tristan says, like, oh, except for someone who has the heart of a falling star. Right? And Tristan's father is like, yes. I mean, that's the old fairy tale. The old story is that you can live forever if you have the heart of a falling star. And so once again, even like going against his father's wishes, once again, Tristan tries to impress Victoria. But this time he claims, he's like, I can go beyond the wall. And Victoria's like, nobody ever has been behind the wall. You're bluffing. And she, like, calls him on his bluff and rejects him still. And we also found out that Tristan lost his job. So now Tristan's, like, sullen. And instead of taking his father's words to heart, of being like, you need to go out and find the world, nobody lives forever unless they have the heart of a falling star, he misunderstands them and feels like he's wasting his life away in this small town. And he's like, but, like, this is the girl the only thing I wanted is the girl who won't have me. And he doesn't understand that this is, like, he basically doesn't understand this and is like, so Tristan's father is like, fine, I'll show you this. And he shows Tristan a note his mother wrote and a candle that goes with it. And basically the note says, like, I'm sorry I couldn't be with you. Circumstances kept us apart. But, like, I just know that I, like, did care about you and that I want you to have the world. And in the envelope, there's also a candle. And it says, like, light this candle wherever you want to go. And Tristan takes this as a metaphor. Like, the candle is meant to be, like, it'll shine the way kind of thing. So that night, Tristan watches as a star falls beyond the wall, and he remembers the story of a man who can live forever if he has the heart. And he's like, yo, I'll go get the heart, misunderstanding what his father was saying. His father was like, let it go and go do something else because no one can live forever. And he's like, unless they have the heart and there's a falling star, I'm going to go get it. And the point is, the audience is supposed to be like, you're missing the point here, bud. Yeah. Right. So he's like, I'm gonna go out and get this heart, and I'll be able to impress Victoria with it. Even I don't actually think anyone can live forever, but I'll impress Victoria by getting this falling star. Like, that's great, and I can and if the fairy tale is true, then bonus for me. So he goes to leave the house with thoughts of finding the falling star, and he grabs the candle that his mother gave and lights it in order to give him some light. But because his thoughts are filled with the falling star, it's a Babylon candle, and he's immediately launched directly to the star without realizing what the candle is. So this is where we meet Yvain. So from here, most of the plot would remain the same, but we all see things from Tristan's point of view. For starters, like, Yvain actually goes with Tristan because when he realizes that she's a living person rather than a hunk of burning metal and rock, he's like, oh, I don't actually want your heart at all. Like, that's morbid. I just want to, like, show you to Victoria, and then I'll help you get home. And she's like, wow, that's a good deal. Like, most people try to hunt for the stars. And he's like, whoa, that's garbage. Like, those people are terrible. Like, I would never do something like that. We also find out that Yvain can do magic. Okay. Like, as a star person, she can just do magic. And they're like, it's powerful magic as long as her powers shine. So as long as she has, like, star magic. So in the forest, they do become lost, and she leaves Tristan out of frustration because he's like, no, it's this way. And she's, no, it's so they do split up, and she goes to the false inn, and he comes across Primus, who's the first. This is where we first meet them. He's the firstborn king, or firstborn of the king of Stormhold, and is in search of a necklace, which Tristan knows that Yvain was wearing. And he's like, yo, I gotta find this necklace in order to break a curse. Because I was cursed by a witch, or my family was cursed by a witch, and if I find the necklace of a falling star, I can break that curse. Okay. So basically what happens is the firstborn, or like the next in line to become king, is haunted by all the previous brothers. But he can see them and understand them, but only he can see them.
Okay.
So he's talking to all these brothers all the time, and Tristan can't see them. But Primus can.
Okay.
And Primus explains like there was all of his like there's only like 3 or 4 of them dead at this point. But he's like, Primus explains like, I can see I'm cursed by, that's why I need this necklace. So I'm cursed by all my dead brothers and will continue to be cursed until the curse is broken. So even if all of us die, we'll just move on to the next heir until the curse is broken.
Okay, so if they were to all die, then...
Even if all of them were to die, then the curse wouldn't be broken. They would just have to haunt the next person in line.
Okay.
So he's like, we don't know who that is, but like basically it's him, and then next would be Una. Oh no, sorry, it would be him, and then their youngest sister is Una. Mm-hmm. So it'd be him, and then all the way down to Septimus, and then Una.
Yep.
But nobody knows where Una is. So we also see that like Primus is actually a good dude. And his father like pissed off this witch one time, and that's why they got cursed. So meanwhile, Lamia does this whole thing with Yvain at the fake inn, and Tristan and Primus show up. Primus is killed, and then we're introduced to Septimus, who is now being driven insane by the haunting of his 6 dead brothers. So he has all 6 of them, and he can talk with them, and they're driving him insane.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, how could you let him get away? And he's like, stop talking. So I just think that would be so funny. So Tristan and Yvain escape with the candle. They use the last of the candle and run into Captain Shakespeare and his crew. And that whole thing can happen exactly the same, except in my version, they'd wind up spending much more time with the crew than just a few days, because there's no actual rush for Tristan to get back. He just wants to impress Victoria. There's no like end date on when she's getting married. Tristan learns that we see that the crew actually knows that the captain is eccentric, but they think he doesn't want them to know, and so they pretend not to know.
So like, maybe you could have a scene where one of them walks in, is just like, oh, and then backs out and walks away without the captain noticing.
Well, just this idea where he's like they like come in on him doing something very eccentric, right? Mm-hmm. Or flamboyant, and they're just like, what? You know what I mean? And they both like he doesn't know that they know, and they all know. Mm-hmm. But they don't want to like have his reputation be ruined by saying that they know, so they just let him get away with it.
Yep.
So yeah. So basically, in this whole thing, we do get the montage, and Tristan like learns like over the course of weeks everything he can from Captain Shakespeare, and he also lets Yvain read literature on magic. So they're all sort of learning, and they learn to catch lightning and do like all this stuff together, and we can see they're sort of like having a relationship that's growing between them. But the distance back to the wall is like a very long distance, because he had the candle to send him there. So like walking was never really an option. Mm-hmm. So Yvain learns by watching how the lightning works, and she thinks that she may in fact be able to produce lightning on her own. But she's like, I really need like very powerful magic to make that happen. So meanwhile, Septimus finds out that the star that Yvain, not just the necklace of a star could cure his like the curse. Mm-hmm. But the reason that the witch cursed his father so that it needed a star's necklace is because she knew that if a star fell, and that if the princes were searching for the necklace, that she could find the star and then eat its heart. So now we're introduced to the witches, and basically Septimus and the witch like meet each other, and without telling each other anything, both realize they're searching for the star. So she realizes that he's searching for the necklace that Yvain is wearing, and realizes that there's a star that's fallen and that she could get its heart and eat it. And then he realizes that she also wants to use the heart to eat it. So he's like, not only could I break the curse, I could live forever. Mm-hmm. But they never say it. They're like beating around the bush with each other. And so the goal here is that the witches, when they eat the heart, it means you live forever, but you don't keep your youth.
Oh, okay.
So they need the star in order to like stay young and use its magic to stay young. Mm-hmm. But like as the magic runs out, they can't use it to stay young, but they still live forever.
Okay.
Supposedly.
Okay.
I can't die. Yeah. And Lamia is the witch that cursed her father. So we also throughout the film do see like an old woman who's like another witch, and she has a slave woman, and they just like sort of appear throughout the story, like in the background, and sometimes we interact with them. So Tristan and Yvain get off the ship close to the wall and are walking the last miles and are tricked by this old woman and her slave the same way. And if Yvain explains her feelings as they're trapped by the old woman. But her slave helps the two escape and explains that she knows what it's like to be in love, and that the two of them must cherish that because she was once in love, but could never be with her lover because she's bound to this witch, Ditchwater or whatever her name is, and they never saw each other again. So then they spend the night at the inn where they express feelings for each other. The next morning, Tristan leaves Yvain and she's heartbroken. Tristan goes to his home village across the wall to basically be like, I think I'm going to stay. And I just want to like talk to my father and whatnot. So we talk to his father and we find it's actually been almost a year since he left. But in the world of like Stormhold, it's only been like a couple months.
Yeah.
And what we find out is that Victoria has agreed to marry Humphrey, which now Tristan is like, oh, good for you. Yeah. Like you'll sort of get along. Because I think I'm in love with somebody else. And then Victoria sees how much more confident and different Tristan is. She's like, well, no, now I like you. Like you're super cool. And then Humphrey shows up and sees, Tristan talking with Yvain, and Tristan is like, okay. And Humphrey challenges him to a sword fight, and Tristan like can easily win. Like we can see he's a better swashbuckler. He's grown so much. But Tristan is like, why am I fighting for a woman I don't love when you two are clearly perfect for each other? Victoria wants me because she thinks I'm cool, and you want her because you think she's beautiful. But clearly you guys know nothing about each other or the real world. So we see that even though Tristan could win, he chooses to lose.
Okay.
And I wanted to do this because I wanted to show that he's a better swashbuckler, but I also wanted to show that his maturity isn't just about how much better he is, but how much more thoughtful he is.
I like that.
Yeah. So he clearly could win, but he's like, I don't have to. When am I winning? So he's like, no, okay, bye. So Tristan gives Victoria Yvain's hair as a wedding present. He's like, happy marriage. But when he opens the package, it's just Stardust, which she thinks is beautiful and serves to make Humphrey jealous because he'll never be able to get something that dazzling or exotic, which basically like taints their relationship by accident is the point of that. Oops. But Tristan realizes that if Yvain goes along the wall, she'll turn mundane. And so he has to like race back to the wall to save her. But the slave girl actually beats him to the wall to save Yvain, where the two of them are captured by Lamia the witch. And she cannot use any magic to save herself. Yvain can't use any magic to save herself because her heart is broken. So now we learn like the magic that she has, the power of it, only comes from how her heart shines. And when her heart is broken, which it was by Tristan leaving, she has no power. So Lamia takes her back to the castle, but Septimus has been waiting there because he's been asking his brothers to like help him see across the world and like see things and plan things because they're all ghosts. So he's like basically like, I'm going to wait at the castle. And then I'll kill the witch and like be able to live forever and break the curse. It's all coming together. But when he sees the slave girl, he's like, Una? Who's his oldest sibling and sister. So when he's fighting the witch, we can basically get that same thing. But I wanted to I thought that voodoo thing was like pretty cool. With the doll moving. So Septimus cannot kill her, even though he does strike like killing blows over and over again. So because she ate the star, she's immortal. And as long as she has the magic, she can stay beautiful and young and can't die. And eventually Septimus is killed. So Tristan uses his bottled lightning to strike one of the witches many times, because there's the three of them still. And finally, one of the witches does die because she runs out of magic from regenerating.
Oh.
So Tristan then like uses it like on the second witch, but it takes longer to do, and he runs out of lightning. So Lamia is the only witch that's left, and she makes the body of Septimus fight Tristan while she prepares to like kill Yvain, and he's dealing with Septimus. Meanwhile, Una is like freaking out. And we basically can't, like, we can see that the ghosts are like talking with her now because Septimus is dead. So they're all haunting her now, and so she's freaking out. So Lamia is defeated but not killed, and Tristan and Yvain reunite, but this was just a ruse because Lamia basically wanted Yvain's heart to grow, like to glow with power so she could kill him. But that was a mistake because Yvain now has power again.
Yep.
So she, like, while their back is turned, Lamia goes to strike, but Una jumps in the way of the magic to save Yvain and Tristan. And because Yvain now is shining with power, she basically produces lightning, and in one single strike kills Lamia.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so on her, like, basically dying, Una explains how glad she is that Tristan and Yvain found each other and that the love they have is so important. And as she dies, like, Yvain is like confused because Tristan is like talking to Una, but Yvain can't hear Una. And it's because Una is Tristan's mother, and he's being haunted by all 8 of the ghosts, and he realizes that that was his mother, and he is in fact the heir to the throne. And so he picks up the necklace from Yvain and breaks the curse, and all the brothers and his mother are free, and he and Yvain get married, and they're now the king and queen. And in the end, Tristan does live forever, but not as a human per se, more so like as a story, because in the end, he had the heart of a star because Yvain gave it to him when they fell in love, and he gave him hers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or he gave him his,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like that you take a lot of the crazy exposition out of it, but you still, like, you plant things early on. Like, you talk with, I think it was Primus, but like, oh, I'm cursed, and this is what happens with the curse.
Like, I still wanted to have everything interconnected. Like, the witch was the one who cursed their father. She wanted them to break the curse by finding the necklace from a fallen star in order to, because if she ever found that the princes were looking for it, then she would know there was a star.
Her search a little bit.
Then she could use them to find the star, which would help make her young and beautiful again. And then they sort of like all play off of each other. And I still basically wanted to have like the princess Una would still be like a slave, but I wouldn't outright say she's Tristan's mother. Like, I would I would be more like dropping hints.
Yeah. Like
saying like she had a baby, but she couldn't be with it because she was bound by this magic thread to this ditchwater witch in order to like, but the whole idea is like, if you're paying attention, you can be like, wait a second, is Tristan actually like this slave girl's I say girl, but slave woman's son, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why he never met his mother. And is the slave girl actually Una? You know what I mean? Like, so who are all these people? But it's all revealed in time. But I really thought the idea of Tristan talking with Una, thinking she's on her deathbed, but having Yvain be like, who are you talking to? And then it revealed that all 8 of Tristan's aunts, like uncles and mother, are like surrounding him and haunting him because he's the heir.
Yeah, the scene, I could almost see it, like, where he's, you're focused in on those 2, and then you pan out after Yvain is just like, who are you talking to? And you see the brothers, and that would be so cool.
Because they would be just as shocked too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would just be a really dope scene as a reveal. Because if you're paying attention, you'd be like, oh, is it going to happen? And if you're not paying attention, you'd be like, oh, shit!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So I didn't actually change the story that much, except for try to cover up a couple of the plot holes. Like Shining doesn't really kill witches. It's like her actual magic, but her magic is dependent on her heart. So the more she's filled with love, or the more she's in love, the more magic she has, and the more heartbroken she is, the no magic she has. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really liked this movie. All I did really was try to rearrange some things. Unfortunately, I had to skip over a lot. Otherwise, I would have gone through the whole movie.
Yeah.
But I didn't really change much. Just reordered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I like the fact that you had it so that the brothers could, or whoever the next in line was, could actually see the dead brothers.
Yeah.
Because before, you're sitting there and you're doing the exact same thing the brothers are doing, where it's like, oh, how long is it going to take for him to notice that, like, this is right here?
But it would be way more fun if Septimus is trying to do stuff and all 6 of his like older brothers are like, it's right there, and he's like, I'm trying.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, everyone is looking at him like, yo, he is crazy.
Yeah.
Like there's just comedic gold there without even trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this was a fun movie. I was very happily surprised with it, with Stardust. This is just a fun movie. It's campy and cheesy and well written, and Neil Gaiman always does a great job. Generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of the way Neil Gaiman writes. I love the stories he builds, but I'm not a huge fan of like how he writes. But this was great. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun to think about pitching as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any last minute thoughts on this one, or are you good there?
No, it's just the one that sticks with me is still just that's not how boobs work. I don't know why that
Why are you
stuck
caught
with
up
me
on that
still.
one?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, where can people find you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/AlyssaLou. Pardon me, with 3 O's. Or you can find me or my creative stuff on Instagram at Alyssa Rose Handmade.
You can find our band, Robot Philosopher, anywhere you listen to dope music. You can also find more episodes of this podcast on the CineCasters channel right here. We've got new episodes every Tuesday and classic episodes being brought over every Friday. So you can catch up on the old episodes on Friday as well. And then you can catch all our scripted content on our sister channel, which is where I do This Is a Thing and some other things, which is called CineMasters Ultimate Timeline. And thanks for hanging out with us.
Bye.